In this section, I'm going to show you the new Chord Pads, and they're a fun and easy way to play and record chords into your Cubase project, either from a pad controller or a MIDI controller or even an electronic drum set that has a MIDI output. So I'm going to show you some of the basic chord pad configurations, and to do so, I'm going to start a brand new Cubase project. So I'm going to go to the File menu and choose New Project, then I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to navigate to my Cubase Projects folder, and then I'm going to create a new folder inside of that called Chord Pads. Then I'm going to open that folder, and I'm going to immediately type Control-Command-S to save the project with the exact same name, except I'm going to call this Chord Pads R01. Now the chord pads will work with either MIDI tracks or instrument tracks. So let's go ahead and add one instrument track, and I'm just going to use a piano. So let's add an instrument track. So I'm going to select Halion Sonic under the synth category right here, Halion Sonic SE, and then add that track. And then let's just load up a simple piano sound. So I'm going to go to that first sound slot and let's just search for piano. And actually the one I want to use is the Yamaha S90. So I'll just type in S90 in the search field here, double click on that to load that piano into our first sound slot. Then I'll close the Halion Sonic SE control panel, and now I have that newly created instrument track right here. Now there are two different ways to access the chord pads screen. One way would be to go to the Chords tab in the inspector and then click on the Chord Pads button right here. But the chord pads are also available under the Project pull-down menu by selecting Chord Pads, or you could type the Shift key as well as Control or Command along with the C key. And as you can see, the chord pads are in somewhat of a constricted view right here, and that's because on this small resolution size I have to use, the rack zone is taking up quite a bit of space over here. So I'm going to quickly close the rack zone by clicking my Window Layout button and turn off the rack zone so that I can come down here and reveal more of the chord pads window. And you'll notice that it is attached to the project window. So our track list is right here, our event display is here, and this is the chord pad window. And you can see that the pads themselves have already been assigned with the factory default chords, and they're arranged in a musical order. So here's our first C, and then D, E, and all the way up to the next C right here. So you have these 13 pads in a musical layout with which to program the chords. And if you didn't want to use a musical layout because you were a DJ or a drummer that needed a more pad-like chord pad layout, I'll show you a little bit later on how to change these to a pad view instead of a musical view. But let's just use our mouse and listen to some of these pre-programmed chords. So as you can see, we've got a C major right here on the first C note of the chord pad window. And if I click on that now, it will play the Halion Sonic SE piano sound that we called up, because the Halion Sonic SE track is record enabled, or you could also monitor enable that track. But the chord pad window will play whatever MIDI or instrument tracks you have either monitor or record enabled. So when I come down and click on the C pad, it plays the C chord. And up here on the player, you can actually see what notes are being played. So if I wanted to hear the D minor, the E minor, then you see all the notes that are played. Now, next to the piano right here, you have a choice of players. So when you click on the player window, you have a piano player or a guitar player. So if you wanted the chords to be guitar compatible in that they are realistic to what a guitar is capable of playing as far as the chords go, then you might want to choose the guitar player. But if you need a piano player, then make sure that that player is selected, and you can even create your own custom players. But now if we wanted to play those chords from a MIDI controller, I do have my keyboard set up right in front of me, so I'm going to play the notes in the first octave range on my MIDI keyboard so that it plays the chords. And when you look in the range window up here, the blue notes that appear here are a representation of where the chord pads will be played. So this first C, C number 1 on my MIDI keyboard is going to play the first chord pad. So I'm going to move my mouse pointer out of the way and just play the first C on my MIDI keyboard. If I played the D, then I'd be playing that D minor pad. If I played the E, I'd be getting the E minor. And then above those notes, I do have an A7, which is actually on the C sharp note, and a B7, which is on the D sharp note. So those are the basics of the chord pad window, and next let's load up some different chord presets.